Hello and welcome back to The Walk and Talk, the podcast designed for dog owners who are committed to the daily dog walk, come rain or shine, but actually want something useful to listen to whilst they're out there doing the good Lord's work with their dogs. My name's Lisa. I'm a professionally qualified and multi-award winning dog trainer and behaviour expert. And today I have decided to come in with a bit of a hot take on a topic that crops up a lot on my Instagram feed at the moment. And that is dog reactivity. And I think reactivity is a topic that we as dog training professionals should be talking about more because, frankly, I think it is on the rise. And there are a multitude of contributing factors to that, right? Which, if you're interested in going down that rabbit hole and exploring what those are, you can go back and listen to episode 3 of this podcast. But also, in a lot of the content I am seeing, there is one massive, crucial make or break piece that almost everyone is glossing over when it comes to educating owners, or skipping over entirely when it comes to actually working with the dogs themselves. And it's the reason why so many well-meaning, committed dog owners, just like you, if reactivity is something that you are struggling with, stay stuck in this horrible cycle of stress and constant setbacks and constant confusion. If you have a reactive dog, whether that is barking at other dogs, barking at people, or showing reactive behaviors in the home, keep listening, because my hope is that this episode shifts something for you. So if you haven't already, clip on your dog's lead and we'll head outside and dive right into today's topic. So for me, this all starts with the core way that we think about reactivity and the big myth at the center of reactivity rehabilitation, which is that reactivity training is about desensitizing the dog to the trigger. And that's it. That is what 99% of people are taught. See the dog, feed the treat, get closer, feed the treat again, gradually reduce distance, boom, job done. And of course, just to clarify before we really get into it, yes, desensitization and counter conditioning have their place. They play a really strong part. Of course they do. They're scientifically valid, evidence-backed methods that will help us redesign a dog's emotional response to something, but they are not the full picture, not even close. And if you have been working with a reactive dog yourself, you can probably relate to this, right? Because I'll wager you've been heading out on your walks with your high value treats in your pocket for months and months and months. And yet your dog is still reacting. And that is not because these methods are wrong, but because they're more than likely being used at the wrong time with a dog who is nowhere near emotionally or physiologically ready to succeed with that. Because ultimately, reactivity isn't just about a dog's reaction to a stimulus. That's the outside stuff. That's the behavior we can see. But it's really about their internal state, their arousal level, their stress history, their predictability in the world, their nervous system. What we often think of as bad behavior is honestly really just a symptom of an overwhelmed, dysregulated dog. So, as is usually my want, let's zoom into the neuroscience for a moment, okay? When a dog is reacting, when they're barking, lunging, spinning, or even freezing, it's not because they are being difficult or they're being dominant or they're just being naughty. It's because their nervous system has flipped into survival mode. Their sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, that is now running the show. In that moment, your dog is no longer thinking. They are 100% feeling, and they're doing whatever their body thinks will keep them safe. Now, the important thing to know here is that a dog in this state cannot learn. The part of the brain responsible for rational decision making, the prefrontal cortex, essentially goes offline when stress levels peak like this. So if you're walking your reactive dog near triggers, feeding treats while they lunge, or desperately trying to cue a watch me while their pupils are dilated and their tail is stiff, you are not training. You are firefighting at this point. And this is why we need to build calm, build safety, build predictability, and create emotional regulation before we start any of this exposure work. Otherwise, we're literally pouring water into a leaky bucket. So, what is really missing here? Okay, let's talk about the boring bit, the bit that most people skip, the bit that I believe is the most important part of reactivity training, really. I'm talking about the pre trigger work. And this is the groundwork that teaches your dog how to engage with you in low stress environments, how to shift focus voluntarily, not just when you're luring them to with a massive piece of chicken, how to walk calmly on a loose lead without pulling, how to co regulate their emotional state with you, how to switch off and settle even when they're not physically tired, and how to tolerate small frustrations without tipping themselves over the edge. This isn't glamorous work. It's definitely not social media worthy, and it certainly doesn't look dramatic or exciting. But this is where 90% of your progress with your reactive dog is made, because a dog who can't focus when nothing is happening absolutely won't be able to focus when everything is happening. And a dog who can't return to calm just in a quiet field is obviously going to fall apart on a busy street. When it comes to reactivity, we need to stop thinking of training as only what we do around the triggers and start thinking of it as a full emotional education. So if you're listening right now and wondering where the heck to start, this is the section to bookmark. Here are the exact skills I recommend every reactive dog owner builds before even thinking about triggers, okay? Number one, environmental engagement. Teach your dog how to calmly observe the world. Not everything needs a cue. Sometimes the most powerful work is just existing in a space without overreacting. Use calm walks, sniffing time, and presence building. And this can look like practicing scatter feeding at home so that it's familiar, and then taking this to a park. It can look like just sitting and watching the world go by with no expectation of engagement. The idea is our dogs need to be able to just exist calmly in environments other than just the inside of their own house, because we're just banking reps of calm existence, right? It's not exciting. It's not overly fun. It's certainly not going to produce good social media content, but sit on the grass with your dog at the park for half an hour a day. Start there and don't move on until you can see that he's capable of that coexistence within a potentially arousing environment without it tipping him over the edge. Okay, number two, voluntary focus. So, teaching eye contact cues isn't a completely valueless endeavor, but what's really valuable with dogs like these is just spotting. So, you need to be vigilant here, spotting, marking, and rewarding the spontaneous check ins that our dogs give us without being asked. I want you to reinforce the heck out of your dog for choosing to check in with you naturally. We are shaping emotional availability, not obedience here, but it is so valuable. Number three is calm patterned movement. Now, there's a fair bit of content about this already on my Instagram and TikTok accounts. And honestly, if you're not following those, what are you even doing? I'm at Listen Dog Training on both of those. Go and have a scroll when this walk is over. But whilst you're here, let's talk about it. So, what is it? Well, in simple terms, it's just a rhythmic, structured movement like figure of eights, really simple cone work, heel zones, or little like proximity with me games. And it gives your dog's body and their brain something predictable and regulated to do. Because your dog's brain, much like ours, absolutely loves patterns. Predictability creates safety. And that's a key principle of the nervous system. When things are predictable, the nervous system can downshift itself out of threat mode. For reactive dogs, whose systems are often running in a chronic state of hypervigilance, this kind of pattern based work is pure gold. Because remember, reactivity isn't just about what your dog is reacting to. It's about how their nervous system is processing the world in general. And when you introduce structured, repetitive movement that creates a rhythm, especially if it's slow and calm and paired with connection to you, it begins to train the nervous system out of that chaos and into regulation. You are literally showing your dog, here is what we do. This is completely safe. This is totally predictable. You do not need to scan for danger. I've totally got you in this situation. It's the opposite of that frantic, zigzaggy, yanking on the lead chaos that so many reactive dogs default to on walks. That chaos, that is a sign that the brain is completely overwhelmed and searching for control. Now, calm, patterned movement gives them that control in a way that's healthy, gentle, and focuses their attention on co regulation with you. So, let's talk about where to start with that, because it's easy to overthink this bit, but really it's just about creating repetition and rhythm. That's it. So, here are a few simple ways you can begin with this. You could just do some figure of eights around two cones or two trees in a park. So, with this, just start small, think 2 to 3 steps each side, keep your pace steady and calm, reward your dog for being with you, for looking up, for checking in, or if they're really frantic, just for softening their body a little bit. You could also teach a heel zone for your dog to walk beside you, not like a rigid heel, not like an obedience heel, just your dog calmly walking in a zone beside you. You can use food, use praise, and just keep it connected and keep it smooth. Walk in straight lines first with lots of reinforcement, and then you can like build up to curves and turns and stuff once they've kind of figured out what it is you guys are doing together. And if you want to get more creative, you could try structured cone work or something similar. So you can use posts, cones, like flower pots in your garden, and just slowly walk around them together repeatedly, calmly, in a predictable pattern. So the idea isn't to be really speedy or to have these really sharp turns. It's just constant flow. Think of them as nervous system therapy, right? These exercises, they help the reactive dog feel how to feel safe in movement, in partnership, and in the world. You are literally rehearsing that feeling with them. So, if you're in the thick of reactivity work, especially if you're not yet ready to go near triggers, which honestly is most of the time where we need to start, then calm patterning can be one of your biggest allies. It builds your dog's tolerance for stillness, it wires in a sense of predictability, and it gives you a shared language for movement, which becomes a tool you can use in the real world whenever things get a bit wobbly. It's not flashy, it's not fast, but it's really useful and it's really powerful. And like I said, if you want to see examples of how to do this or where to start or how to level it up, you can come and find me on TikTok or Instagram at Listen Dog Training. I show a lot of this kind of stuff in action on there. Okay, number 4 is regulation routines. So, can your dog settle at home without needing to be tired out first? Do they understand how to come down after excitement? If not, you got to work on this. So you could use scatter feeding, mat training, decompression routines, and controlled novelty to build that ability. But don't skip this stuff, because it's this stuff that honestly sets you up for success with the rest of your training that comes down the line. Number 5 is teaching something called start button behaviors or activation cues. And this is something I teach you exactly how to do in my 21-day engagement training program. And essentially, for reactive dogs, this helps to give them agency in a situation by teaching them a signal they can give you to say, I'm ready, or I'm okay to move forward now, or I am asking to connect with you. And this really, really helps to make them feel safe, to feel like they have control of a situation. And when they feel those things, well, they no longer feel the desire to meet those unmet needs with reactive behaviors, right? Because they're able to meet them an easier way. So essentially, master these 5 areas, and the trigger work that follows becomes 100 times easier. Skip this stuff, and you are stuck in reactivity limbo for God knows how long. And this is exactly why I created my downloadable reactivity training program, and why it only costs what it does, because I want everyone who is serious about making progress with their dog's reactivity and finally being able to enjoy walks again to be able to access it. And right now, as ever, it's fully available to grab from my website. You can literally start your training today if you want to. I'll leave a link in the show notes. And obviously, because I love you guys so much, you can always use code podcast10 for an extra 10% off. So, to wrap up, if you've listened this far, thank you very much. I really hope this episode has been useful to you in some way, especially if you do have a reactive dog, or maybe you know someone who does, and the progress has just felt so slow, or the problem has seemed never ending. I really want you to take some comfort in the fact that even if it is hard right now, it really doesn't mean it will stay this way forever. And it's not necessarily because you're not doing enough, but maybe there's a step or two your reactivity training has been missing, and you just need a new approach with some stronger foundations in place. Maybe it is time to go back to basics and get those right first. And if you do want a step-by-step path that supports you literally day by day, exercise by exercise, like I said already, my reactivity training pack is available at listendogtraining.com, and it includes everything you need to know. So if you found this episode helpful, or maybe you have a friend you think it might benefit, please feel free to send it their way, share it on your Instagram, or even drop me a review wherever you're listening. It really, really does help the podcast to grow and reach new people. And don't forget, you can find all the resources mentioned in this episode, including my engagement training and my reactivity training, at listendogtraining.com. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your walk, and I will see you same time next week for another episode of The Walk and Talk.